Today's movie scene starts with a teenager, Noah, gradually developing passionate feelings for her handsome but arrogant stepbrother after her mother remarries. However, someone from her past wishes to exact revenge and ruin her life. In her old bedroom, Noah takes one final look at the space, then grabs the framed picture of her and her father, a rally driver. During the drive to their new home, the teen argues with her mother, Rafaela, whom she blames for taking her far away from her friends and boyfriend, Dan. Soon, they arrive at a lavish mansion where Will, the woman's new husband, greets them. Despite the warm welcome, Noah doesn't hide her disdain for her stepfather. Inside, Rafaela takes Noah to her new bedroom, and the grateful daughter thanks her. Before leaving, Rafaela mentions that the room next to Noah's is Nick's, Will's son. In the walk-in closet, Noah sees new clothes, takes a selfie, and sends it to her friend. Moments later, she spots someone on the adjacent balcony, but her phone suddenly rings, so she heads inside to answer it. Betty, her best friend, expresses her jealousy of Noah's opulent life, but Noah says she hates living in a stuffy mansion. She goes to the kitchen to grab a snack and mentions their family dinner at the sailing club that evening. While Noah checks the fridge, Nick appears, and the startled teen tosses her phone over her shoulder. He deduces that she's his new stepsister and mocks her complaints about the food. Annoyed, she turns around to pick up her phone but realizes she's face-to-face with Nick's growling pet dog, Thor. Noah tells Nick to call off the animal, but Nick enjoys watching her squirm. Eventually, he orders Thor to stand down, and when Rafaela and Will appear, asking if their children are getting along, Noah lies and mentions how nice Nick is. That evening, the family waits for Noah, who descends the stairs wearing a band t-shirt, even though everyone else is dressed for a formal dinner. During the car ride, she texts her boyfriend, who responds glibly about how busy he is. From the other vehicle, Nick stares at her, smiles, and tosses his cigarette out the window. At the restaurant, Noah learns that her stepbrother enjoys surfing, so she mocks him for liking a sport that doesn't require intelligence. Amused, Nick excuses himself from the dinner because he has to finish paperwork at his friend's house. Rafaela tells her daughter that Nick studies law and excels at it. Then, Noah says she also wants to leave. So Will tells Nick to drop her off at the house on his way to work. On the drive back, the pair continue bickering, but when Nick makes an offhand comment about how patient Rafaela is for putting up with Noah's behavior, Noah indifferently says he wouldn't know anything about a mother's love. Furious, Nick stops the vehicle and orders his stepsister to get out, stranding her in the middle of nowhere. Unfortunately, her phone's battery runs out. So she waves down a passing car to hitch a ride. Mario picks her up and mentions he's on his way to a party. When he learns that she's Nick's stepsister, he reveals that Nick is probably already at the party he's headed to. At the shindig, Mario warns Noah to stay away from Ronnie, a known troublemaker who just got out of prison. By the pool, Noah spots a shirtless Nick making out with several women. Moments later, she punches Nick for abandoning her earlier, and he orders her to leave. However, she's determined to stay and threatens to tell his father about the party, especially since he lied about going to work. Nick grabs her by the arms and says it's unwise to get on his bad side. Then, he brings his face close to hers and states that she's just like the other girls and mocks the knot tattoo behind her ear. Insulted, she explains that it stands for how strong she is, and she pushes him away. Mario places a red bandana on Noah's bag so Ronnie's gang leaves her alone. Seconds later, Jenna's boyfriend, Lion, joins them and introduces himself. Later that night, Ronnie tells Noah that he knows she's Nick's stepsister. Then, the man instructs his lackey to offer the teen a drink. Suddenly, Nick pushes the man away and knocks the spiked drink out of Noah's hand. To make sure she's safe, Nick takes the intoxicated teen home. In the house, Nick carries his stumbling stepsister to her bedroom. When he turns the lamp off, she tells him to leave it on, implying that she's afraid of the dark. That night, Noah dreams of the time when her scared mother told her to hide in the closet to keep her safe from a man angrily pounding on the bedroom door. The next day, the confused teen wonders why her mother thinks she was at Jenna's last night, and that she and Nick get along. So, she checks her phone and sees that Nick used it to tell Rafaela that she was at Jenna's watching a movie, and now her mother thinks he's great. The mother thanks her stepson for introducing her daughter to his friends, but Noah exclaims that she hasn't forgiven Rafaela for taking her away from Dan and her friends. While Noah sunbathes at the beach, she answers a call from an unknown number, but all she hears is the person's breathing. Seconds later, Nick and his friends arrive. So she confronts him for touching her phone. When Nick changes into a wetsuit, the teen sneaks glances at his clothless body. Then, two women appear, and one asks Nick if they can watch him race tonight, but he pretends he doesn't know what she's talking about. At the drag racing party that night, Nick gets distracted when he sees his stepsister arrive, causing him to lag behind his opponent. After the first lap, he sees Noah and Mario hug, and Lion tells Jenna that his friend seems distracted. A few feet away, Nick's on-and-off girlfriend, Anna, side-eyes the teen. Seconds later, Noah explains why her stepbrother is having problems with the sixth turn, prompting Lion to wonder how she knows so much about racing. Eventually, Nick wins the race, angering Ronnie. Meanwhile, the teen receives pictures of Betty and Dan making out, so Jenna tells her to kiss someone at the party as payback. After receiving more pictures of her boyfriend's betrayal, she grabs a random guy and kisses him. Later, they continue making out by Nick's car, so the stepbrother tells the man to get away from his vehicle. When he learns that Noah needs a selfie of her kissing another guy, he says he'll do it if she promises to go home with Jenna immediately after. So, the pair lock lips, and he takes a picture. After he walks away, the flustered teen gets in his car. Then, Nick finds Anna, so they can make love inside her vehicle. Meanwhile, Noah sends the picture to her cheating boyfriend. Suddenly, Ronnie drives up next to her and says the final race is about to start, and that if she doesn't participate, his team wins by default. Nick and his friends realize Noah's in the car, and her superb driving skills surprise everyone. The team wins the race, but the spiteful Ronnie says Nick broke the rules because he was supposed to be the driver. The stepbrother counters that the race doesn't count because Noah isn't part of the team. However, Ronnie points out the red bandana on the teen's bag. So, the defeated Nick pays the man €15,000 and hands over his car keys. When Ronnie insults Noah, the stepbrother retaliates with a punch, and a brawl breaks out. In the chaos, the teen curls up on the ground, haunted by a violent childhood memory. Someone accidentally steps on her hand, and Jenna soon pulls her to safety, and they drive away with Lion and Nick. In the back seat, the teen sees a similar knot tattoo on her stepbrother's arm, and he wraps her injured hand with a bandana. The next day, Noah receives a text from an unknown number telling her that she should have kept her mouth shut, but she hides it from her mother. Then, Jenna arrives to help the teen prepare for Will's company gala that evening. Later, the husband sees how anxious Rafaela is about making a good impression at the event, so he assures her that it'll be nothing compared to the tougher tests she's already endured in her life. As they hold each other close, Noah sees the couple in a loving embrace. Eventually, Nick returns home and sees Noah watching a movie with Thor in the living room. He points out how a drifting scene in the film isn't possible, but she counters that it can be done if both drivers pull on the handbrake at the same time. Then, she apologizes for costing him his car at the race, but he insists that it doesn't matter. The pair share a passionate kiss but acknowledge that what they're doing is wrong because they're step-siblings. Moments later, Rafaela appears and tells the man to apologize to his father for missing the gala. The next day, the mother surprises the daughter with Dan, whom she invited to stay at the house for a few days. Later, while the friends hang out by the pool, Noah warns Nick that Dan can't see him because he might recognize him from the kissing picture and tell her mother. The man enjoys torturing his stepsister by constantly interrupting the couple's conversation. To preoccupy the guest, Lion and Jenna distract him, while Nick pulls Noah into the water, and they make out behind the pool floats. However, Dan still recognizes Nick as the guy from the picture. Minutes later, Rafaela hands her daughter flowers and a note, thinking they might be from the ex-boyfriend. When the teen opens the note, it contains a threatening message about how she's going to pay for what she did. She confronts Dan, but he doesn't know who sent the note. Then he asks if her mother knows about her and Nick, but she feigns ignorance. Meanwhile, a mysterious man tells Ronnie that it's time they carried out their plan of abducting Noah. That evening, the ex-convict follows Nick outside a restaurant because they'd like him to relay a message to his stepsister. Later, the badly beaten man returns home. But when he sees Dan make his way to the teen's room, he heads outside instead. To his surprise, he finds the sleeping Noah on a lounge chair and spots the scar on her stomach. He tries to cover her body with her shirt, but the startled teen punches him. Apologetic, she tells him to lie down on the chair and tends to his injuries. Then, Nick says he believes Ronnie's after her, and it might be better if they stick together from now on. After they kiss, the teen wonders why women are drawn to men like him, those who lie and have a violent side. However, Nick swears that he isn't like the others. Suddenly, Dan appears, and Noah promises to forgive him for cheating if he keeps mum about the secret relationship. The next day, the servant, Martin, plays along and apologizes for Nick slipping on the leaves by the pool, so Will doesn't ask about the bruises on his son's face. Moments later, Noah receives another threatening note from the mystery man. That afternoon, they pick Anna up, and she gets annoyed at having to sit in the back seat. Mario asks the teen where she learned how to drive, but Anna interrupts and says her father's a rally driver, as evidenced by a picture she posted on Instagram. However, she says her father died years ago during one of his races. Then, Noah asks how Nick got into gang culture. So the woman says that because his mother abandoned him, he ran away to Mexico and met Lion, a car mechanic. The teen asks Anna leading questions to find out if she sent the notes, but the stepbrother says the woman's the type to confront her enemies in person. Eventually, they arrive at an abandoned building where Nick pulls Noah aside, and they passionately kiss behind a pillar. Soon, Lion and Jenna join them, and the teen realizes they're in the midst of a secret fight club. When the stepbrother prepares for his match, Noah begs him not to participate, but Anna pushes her away for distracting the man. Unable to stomach the carnage, the teen walks away, and Mario chases after her. She expresses her disbelief at what they deem as entertainment, so the man comforts her. Then, he thanks Noah for inviting him and kisses her on the lips. Suddenly, Nick appears and pushes Mario off his stepsister. Furious, she admonishes the man for always using his fists to solve his problems. He explains that he's never felt jealousy when he was with other women before and that she drives him crazy. However, Noah says she can't have another violent person in her life again. Before leaving, she swears that nothing else is ever going to happen between her and Nick. For the next few days, the step-siblings go about their own lives and ignore each other. To earn money, the teen works as a waitress in a restaurant, and one night finds another note under a plate. In her room, she keeps all the notes inside a box. One day, Will tells his son that Noah's father physically abused Rafaela and stabbed the teen when she was a child, explaining the scar on her stomach. He adds that the man's still alive and was released from prison 2 weeks ago, contrary to Noah's claim that he died in a race. Rafaela fears her ex-husband might track them down and exact revenge on their daughter since she was the key witness in his conviction. So, Will asks his son to keep a close eye on his stepsister to make sure he says he should have never left her on the road that night and kissed her instead. He adds that he had known about her father. Earlier, he would have kept her away from situations that remind her of her traumatic past. Then, the man swears he'd never hurt her and that he knows she knows that. However, Noah reminds him that their parents know about their relationship, and she doesn't want to compromise her mother's happiness with Will. So, they agree to enjoy one last night together. In case this might be the last time they'll be in each other's arms. Later, the pair finally makes love on the sandy beach under the moonlight. The next morning, they want to do the deed again, so they drive to a gas station, so Nick can purchase prophylactics. However, while he's in the store, Ronnie and his men knocked her out with chloroform and abduct her. When he returns to the car, the man finds the door open and the teen missing. Later, Nick recognizes Ronnie on the security camera footage the detective shows him. Then, Will tell his son that if they do find Noah, he can never come near her again. Meanwhile, the teen wakes up in a dark room, tied to a table. From the shadows, Jonas emerges and reveals that he sent her the letters. Concurrently, the cops find the notes and Rafaela's scared reaction shows that she recognizes her ex-husband's handwriting. Suddenly, her phone rings, and Jonas tells them that he wants €1 million inside a bag by the statue on the promenade at 4 p.m. After the call, the detective relays that Ronnie and Jonas were cellmates in prison, explaining why they're working together. In the garage, the deranged man knocks his companion down to the floor with a gun. That afternoon, the parents waited by the statue with the money. Even though the authorities told him to stay away, Nick drives to the location to help out in any way he can. Unbeknownst to them, Jonas placed a camera in the statue, and he listens in on their conversation. Suddenly, Nick remembers that because he hasn't paid off the car he lost to Ronnie, they can use the insurance tracker inside the vehicle. The detective informs the parents through their earpieces, and Jonas overhears that the police tracked them down. Just as Nick and the cop arrive outside the garage, his racing car crashes through the doors, and he sees that the father's forcing Noah to drive. The father orders the teen to drive by the promenade. He fires his gun at the couple, but Will manages to raise the bag over his head, saving him from the bullet. Eventually, Noah drives to the end of a pier and she gives Nick, who's at the other end, gave a knowing look. Suddenly, they start driving toward each other at top speed, and just before colliding, they pull on their hand brakes at the same time, successfully drifting their vehicles in a circle. This allows their windows to align, so they lower their heads, giving the detective the perfect angle to shoot Jonas. Meanwhile, the cops find Ronnie tied up in a hole inside the garage. At the dock, the relieved parents hug their children, and Rafaela thanks Nick for saving her daughter. That evening, Nick sneaks into the stepsister's room, and they make love. After the deed, he finally says, "I love you," for the first time. The teen hopes they never have to leave each other's arms, and that this is just the beginning.